On this week's GTA 6 o'clock, the great price debate returns.
But this is the first time that a retailer like this has put up a pre-order for that kind of price range.
Will GTA 6 have physical copies?
I totally agree with you. They will have probably options up to about £200-ish.
And the most accurate map yet. It's all here on this week's GTA 6 o'clock.
Hello and welcome to episode 65 of GTA 6 o'clock, the world's most in-depth and best connected GTA 6 show. And a special hello to all of the new listeners. Thanks for being part of this road trip with us. If you've been with us for some time or even since the GTA 5 days, thanks for your support. Okay, so this week, as we do every week, myself, James, JJ Jarvis, and the man opposite me, Dan, DD Dawkins, will be taking you through the hottest GTA 6 news, rumours and speculation to hit the internet since the last show. So we should kick off by saying, hello, Dan.
Hello, James.
Quick update, Dan, newsletter update, hot news from us. There is now a link people can go to.
Yes, if you head to gamesradar.com/newsletter, you can sign up for the GTA 6 o'clock newsletter. A slight word of warning, this is a sign-up page that has a few other newsletters on. You cannot miss us. There's a really clear GTA image. It says GTA 6 o'clock. Just pop along to that URL, which is gamesradar.com/newsletter. Click on the GTA sign-up box, enter your email, and then every Thursday at 6 p.m, just like the show, 6 p.m. GMT, you get a new newsletter which goes a little bit deeper on some themes of the show you'll have heard that week. Also follows up if there's been new updates. So, for example, last week we talked about Danny Dyer and Marching Powder, which we were able to update within the newsletter, as we will in the show in a minute. So, please do check that out. Send any feedback to our email address, which is, James, can you remind me?
gtavio'clock@gmail.com.
Nice and easy. So, please check it out. Let us know any feedback and sign up. Thank you.
So, Dan, as you just mentioned, and if you haven't read last week's newsletter, in last week's show, we talked about Rockstar's tweet on X or Twitter about Danny Dyer's new film, Marching Powder, which we said was a strange thing for them to do. And I will add, I think is still a strange thing for them to do. But as we found out as we were publishing the show, it turns out Rockstar Games produced Marching Powder. So obviously it's just some kind of promotion for the film that they've produced. It came from an article we found on the Radio Times, which says, intriguingly, the film comes produced by Rockstar Games, the enormous video game company behind Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption. Jack's boy, Jack is the name of the character Danny Dyer plays, can even be glimpsed playing the latter, Red Dead Redemption, in the film.
Yeah.
So there's a very tiny scene of him playing a video game, and that video game is Red Dead Redemption. So they've mentioned it. Some of you in the comments had even seen it, and for some reason waited while the credits were still scrolling at the end of the film, and then saw that it was produced by Rockstar Games. Let us know that. So thank you to everybody who went and saw it and let us know. Rockstar Games previously produced The Football Factory, which was also directed by Nick Love, the same as Marching Powder. So they have a history of doing this from time to time. I don't think it really signifies anything else in the wider sense, but the question I've written down here is, does this hint at a possible return to film production for Rockstar Games, in the sense that they're, getting back into it with the hope of possibly producing their own film about something that they own, like an IP, sometime down the line? Let's discuss. Could they be going, hey, we just produced Marching Powder, that went all right, let's produce the GTA film that we've always maybe never wanted to do?
My honest and quick answer would be no, but I think that they've got enough on their plate producing and creating Grand Theft Auto 6.
Yeah.
They've traditionally been a company that really sweats the details and has really strong authorial control over what they create. So I would say the challenge then would be with making like a movie or even producing a movie is they probably wouldn't be very silent partners if they were looking to produce their own thing. I think they would want a really high degree of creative control. So I don't think it's something they can do idly, like to set up a Rockstar Games production and outsource it to people they, even people they trust. I think they'd still want really high lean-in. So I find that unlikely at this time. But does it keep... It's almost like, it's keeping a pan on the oven.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something they could return to. Like, I really don't feel like it's something that would be imminent. I mean, do you feel differently at all?
No. And I actually think if they were going to do any of their franchises, Red Dead is probably the better franchise for a film adaptation. Because you could just adapt that game. Because the storyline is pretty cinematic. It's got a lot of good things going for it. Westerns are still pretty in right now. So I think if they were going to do anything, that would be your starting point. But no, I also don't think they are actually going to do that.
And I also see that Red Dead's the movie that a lot of actors throw their hat into the ring for. I think I remember Henry Cavill quite recently saying he'd love to be in that, probably much to the dismay of Roger Clark and Arthur Morgan.
Not again.
It's like, oh my God. But, you could see it's a thing that games adjacent people would want to be part of. Before we leave this topic, I just wanted to say Nick Love, the director of Football Factory and Marching Powder, as part of the press tour for Marching Powder, he actually talked a bit more about this relationship with Rockstar. And he was talking really about they back us because they trust our brand. They did it previously with Football Factory, as we've just discussed. But he also said what was interesting is he said they backed another of my projects, and then they looked at it properly and decided they didn't want to back it and took their name off it.
Oh.
And he was laughing about it. But he said that shows something has to be very deeply aligned to their values for them to attach themselves to it like this. So I think at its core, and I think if you look at the age of like Sam Houser, previously Dan Houser, they're of a generation, probably that late 90s Gen X generation, who grew up. Books like The Football Factory were iconic. They were social chronicles talking about essentially football hooliganism. Those sorts of cultural markers are at the belly of what GTA is. So I think there's probably a nod to history and where their game came from.
Yeah.
GTA now is very much a different thing. It's a different beast. It's global. It's got many more masters and things it tries to do. But the roots of Rockstar are aligned with things Nick Love has done. I also thought Danny Dyer, we might have mentioned this on last week's show, he was talking a lot about how it was the best role he ever had.
He did say that.
Yeah,
Best
he
thing
did.
of his career,
Yeah.
he said.
So, bad news for fans of the Wall, but good news for GTA fans.
The other quick thing I just wanted to touch on is last week we talked about GTA Online and now the GTA 5 Enhanced Edition on PC having a new version of GTA Online. I got a little bit overexcited while we were recording the podcast and didn't really, I think, attach in my brain that, of course, the GTA 5 Enhanced version on PC isn't going to update when GTA 6 comes out. That version isn't getting updated until GTA 6 comes out on PC.
Yes.
Which may be a year, 2 years away before that happens. Sorry, PC fans.
So you've got the best version right now, less so in 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, and it's not going to make that flip. It's not immediately going to switch to whatever new version is just because it's out on console. Like, PC players are going to have to wait.
Yeah.
So, sorry for getting overexcited that all of that is happening. Let's talk about some new things, though. And first up this week is a story that's been doing the rounds for a few weeks, but we've been talking about other things like Danny Dyer's new film to talk about it. So let's talk about it now. And this is by a Dextero, which is a Swiss retailer, has listed the GTA 6 pre-order at 99 Swiss francs, which converts to over $100 US, fueling the rumor that this game could be more expensive than expected. Now, this is something that we have talked about previously when we talked about the price. How much could it be? What are your expectations around it when it comes out? But this is the first time that a retailer like this has put up a pre-order. Some would say maybe accidentally, because it definitely doesn't exist anymore, for that kind of price range. Now, there's a lot of caveats in here of like how that could have come to be and why did it happen. But the Swiss retailer in question are called Brack. You can no longer find the listing, so you can't go search for it. On March the 11th, they listed this as a pre-order deal for PS5 for 99 Swiss francs. That puts the conversion rate in at, as we said, $112, 102 euros, or 86 pounds. Now, releases in Switzerland are generally $1 or $2 more than they are in the United States, but not by a significant amount. But I think the interesting thing here is Brack as a establishment are actually quite big. They're not just I think when we talked about it a few weeks ago, it was a one shop, like a actual physical shop in, I want to say Malaysia, but I might be getting that wrong. Correct me in the comments. Who had just put like a sticker on it and said pre-orders are live. Whereas this is essentially like a big Amazon type store, but in Switzerland. So they sell everything from electronics to games to clothes to groceries, like all that kind of stuff. And in fact, they've also sponsored the men's soccer top tier Super League for the upcoming season through a 5-year-long deal, which the Global Data Sport is estimated to be about $33 million, worth about $33 million in total. So they are, they've got some money, and they're not a small retailer to be doing this kind of thing. I guess the question is, what do we think about this? Do we think, was it just a mistake? Or are they trying to get the jump so people, put a load of money into the pre-orders on their website and they just get to keep it for a while it accrues interest until the game comes out? Or is there something else going on here?
I think it's more relevant of attention because they're a much bigger retailer than, was it a Malaysian independent retailer who created a fake pack shot and said, here it is, folks. We talked about that on a previous episode. That didn't feel very legitimate. This feels like it should have been subject to more scrutiny by virtue of being a larger company. So you'd think more people would have seen that and said, yes, it's okay to say this. You would think. Might not be, but you think it would be. Still, though, does it make it true or do I believe it? Like, I don't know, as in the factual accuracy of this particular statement, I don't know. There's a lot more to say, and I'm sure we will, about what price should it be, could it be, etc. But I don't of itself feel like this is definitive proof. I think there's a chance it could be a mistake, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and it's quite a high number. Like, even if you were adding on another £20 to the UK price, it still doesn't get to that. I don't think it's going to come in, for example, at that conversion rate of 86-ish pounds for the game. Like, currently, games are about £60, like as a actual full retail cost before they get discounted or whatever.
Yeah, and actually, sorry, I was just checking off air. Like, I've taken deep breaths at times looking at some of the upcoming AAA releases. So, for example, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, to pre-order, the standard edition is £69.99. The digital deluxe, £79.99. Death Stranding 2 on the beach, £69.99. So that's almost become the new benchmark for that sort of bracket of AAA, is £69.99, which is then would make this, I say only, and I say this lightly, only a £16 leap to the £86 converted price of this.
Yeah.
But that's still £16. And psychologically, it pushes the dollar price. And, the US price is often, they get the best deal, as in it's PlayStation games are like $69, but £69, and the dollar one would be cheaper for us in the UK if we get access to it. So I don't know. I think pushing it psychologically over the €100 or $100 mark is big. Triple figures video game.
Yeah, which I guess would be the headline everywhere if that happened. I mean, if you're saying like those games that are upcoming are benchmarking around £70 UK price, even putting £5 onto that, I think, would be a significant enough increase in price, but maybe not too much of a price to make anyone really sad about it. A game releasing for £75, I could see that happening, especially a game like GTA. Not all of the games. I'm not saying everything. It's just that's going to become the uniform price. But
I mean, this is the staggering part of it. It's even $1 on the retail price. Given that, if you go back to GTA 5, where they sold, and this is just, it's not exact quote, but they're saying 11 million copies on the first day. So at every extra dollar you put on that price is another $11 million.
yeah,
$10, a lot more money. It's a lot more money. So, like, again, whilst we might go $5, I'll suck it up, for Rockstar, this is huge.
oh yeah,
And they're almost dealing in the same economies of scale that, like, supermarkets do, where you go, what's 10p on a loaf of bread? But, when you're selling millions of loaves of bread, it's suddenly that margin is huge. So, yeah, it's pretty significant for Rockstar if they were to do that. Like, do you place much credence in this listing and the possibility of it getting higher priced?
the listing not so much. Do I see it being a slightly higher price than any other game? Yes, I think they've sort of set the groundwork for that in all of the investor calls and the other interviews when Strauss Zelnick has been saying, we want to price this in a way that you're going to get entertainment value out of it, and what is that worth to the player. They'll know, how much people play GTA from release to now. Like, you could have played that game for hundreds of thousands of hours, and then, that scale works the other way then, right? The longer you play it, the better value for money it is. So you could easily say, well, if it was £75, but you played that game for 10 years, it's excellent value for money, because that game will just continue to give you more and more stuff. There's a load of free updates. I imagine, again, GTA Online will be free, at least its base level. So, I think for us as players, it would be difficult to buy it for more than you've ever paid for a game. But if you look long term, you're like, actually, I can see how this might work out, as long as you're going to play that game enough.
Yeah, I think it's less about, I don't want to sound flippant, it's less about whether GTA 6 is £70, £80, £90, £100 or its dollar equivalent, because it would still represent value at any of those price points. You might be super annoyed about it and go, damn you, why? What it does for me is shine a spotlight is the general lack of price differentiation for AAA games. If you were buying a car, you could argue all cars get you to A to B, they're the same. The difference between buying a BMW or an Audi versus buying, say, like a Bid or a Dacia or whatever it is hugely dramatic, because there's a fundamental recognition of a difference in quality between those products. In the AAA space, there is price differentiation on console, but it's more, this is an indie, 20 quid.
Yeah.
This is AAA, 70 quid. And there's a lot of games in the £70 bracket that I would argue are as different in quality as, say, an Audi to a Dacia. But
Read between the lines there, listeners, and work out.
But like there's not a recognition of that in pricing in the market. And it's also because people who buy video games tend to be, let's be real as well, people who are buying Audis or whatever car they're into are older people with lots of money. They can't afford to suddenly go, oh, by the way, GTA's £300. It would alienate a huge part of the younger gaming side. It just wouldn't make any sense. But I just think it's an interesting observation that games do not differentiate in the way a lot of other markets and products do. Even mobile phones would be a comparable thing. Should it? Question mark. I'm not being pro it, I'm just questioning it. Please feel free to debate it in the comments.
I mean, the good news for some people is Sid Meier's Civilization 7, which is a Take-Two game, just came out. That released at £60 in the UK, $59.99, 69 Swiss francs, $69.99 US dollars. So that was a pretty, standard release price. But you can see them going the other way. And if we look at something like Red Dead 2, which is what I absolutely believe is going to happen, and it's the different iterations of that, this game is came out a long time ago. So actually, the standard edition for Red Dead 2 was $54.99, and even between that price and the price that we're paying now, £70, that's a £15 jump since Red Dead came out, and everyone was like, £55 for a game?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And now we're like, oh, £70 is fine.
It's 5-6 years ago, isn't it? Already. So,
So that's probably like, the starting point is going to be £70. Like, there's no question about that, I don't think. It's just whether it's going to be above £70. Then Red Dead Redemption 2 had a special edition, which was $74.99, so another £20 on top. And then the Ultimate Edition was essentially £90, so £35 more. They also had a separate collector's box, which was also £90, which featured loads of Red Dead paraphernalia, like maps and candles and that kind of stuff, and a steel case. But crucially, no game.
Amazing.
No code for the game. Not like it was just the collector's box that you got, and then you would decide which of the other editions you wanted.
Huh.
So I bought the collector's box. Now I'm going to buy the special edition because that comes with an extra mission, some online bonuses, all of that kind of thing. So that tiered structure is exactly how I think GTA 6 is going to play out. There'll be the standard edition. There'll be one special edition, which is your, do you want to add a side on your McDonald's menu? And for an extra, I can get nuggets if I pay an extra £2. Like, of course you're doing that.
Yeah.
If you can justify it. And then the Ultimate Edition is for the people who want everything. I think the pricings will change for that. Obviously, compared to Red Dead, they're going to go up at least £15 each, which would push the Ultimate Edition over £100. But as we're about to look at, that is not uncommon these days for big Ultimate Editions costing that kind of money. Like, I picked out two of the much more higher scaled ones for fun, but there was an Assassin's Creed Origin Collector's Edition, which was $800. They only made 1,000 of them, but you did get the game. You got a medal case, a huge collectible figurine, art prints, a wearable amulet, a map of the game world, official art book, the game's soundtrack, and plenty of in-game bonuses. And then the top end, there was a Dying Light My Apocalypse edition, €250,000, €250,000. But this came with, you got real-life parkour lessons, a custom-built zombie-proof shelter, multiple signed copies of the game, pairs of high-end headphones, a trip, a pair of night vision goggles, adult diapers, don't know why that was in there, life-size figurine of one of the game's infected, and your face in the game. Do I think there will be a super crazily priced GTA 6 edition that comes with this kind of stuff? I don't think so. I think they're going to stick to something that is a bit more traditional, but in the Rockstar tradition of, like, all of this stuff that you get in the Ultimate Edition is cool, but it's going to come in at like between £100 and £200, I think, and come with something that's like, as we've talked about before, designer sunglasses, or something that's a little bit better than a huge collectible figurine or something.
I totally agree. I think they will definitely allow people to price differentiate themselves with, like, probably a base version at and the big question is, what's the lowest possible entry point? Is it going to be £69.99 as it is for games like Death Stranding 2?
Yeah.
Or are they going to raise the floor? And then within that, I totally agree with you. They will have probably options up to about £200-ish. They're not going to say, here, because it would be too lurid and disgusting to go, here's the £250,000.
Yeah.
Come and have lunch with Sam Houser edition.
Trip to Miami.
Yeah. It just
go on a boat.
It's too... People would react badly to it because it would look... They don't need to be that greedy or flaunty or even get that level of PR. Because in reality, is anyone ever actually going to buy that thing? Probably not, but people will write about it. So I think that's why those things are done. Rockstar do not need to do that. It would only be bad PR for them.
Yeah. I reckon someone has bought that Assassin's Creed Collector's Edition.
I guess at a mere $800, yes. I wonder how many, like, of the 1,000, did they actually sell all 1,000? Someone would have done the modelling on that and gone, I reckon there's 1,000 Assassin's Creed super fans who will pay for that. It's the same principle as mobile phone games, where there's like 1% of the audience pay for 100% of the game for everyone else. There's a few whales, as they're called in mobile phone gaming, who will pay tens of thousands of pounds on a game just to be the absolute boss of it, and everyone else gets to play for free because that person's essentially funding the game. So it's a similar principle. My fear is just if Rockstar raise the floor so that the lowest entry price is, say, anywhere between £80 to £100. I'm not saying they will, but I'm saying if they did, the worry is then it gives other publishers and developers carte blanche to do the same when they are not offering like-for-like products.
Yeah.
GTA 6 is a generational product that you expect to be of a outstanding, top-of-the-line quality. It's beyond an Audi of its field. It's absolutely elite sports car level. But then, I don't want to name names, but if there are publishers who produce a merely quite good AAA at the same price, it's not right. People will get really angry and distort the market.
Yeah, and the kind of thing that a GTA offers you above those other games, like because it's, it has its always-on online connectivity. If you're just releasing a single-player game that might last 12 to 15 hours, at AAA level, it's just you can't compare the two. So you're like, this is, even if you play that game 3 times to completion, let's say it takes 20 hours to do everything, 60 hours you're putting into that game and you're done with it. Like, you can't do anything else because it's inherently a single-player game. But with GTA, you can go back to it loads. There's so many secrets and things that you can, people are still playing GTA 5 now and enjoying it and finding new ways to do things in it. It's just, as you say, it's just a different product. Next up then, we're going to take a look at the map, which we haven't done for some time. And this is, I'm going to go out there and say, the most accurate map of GTA 6 we have seen so far. Now, this comes from Darkspace, who's a YouTuber who we have actually mentioned on the show before. They made a video about it potentially taking twice as long to travel across the GTA 6 map as compared to the GTA 5 map. They did it in a helicopter and modeled the thing. They have now taken that one step further and modeled essentially the Vice Beach area of the map, but also some other areas. You can go and check this out for yourself. It's a free map that you can download and make changes to. And so RP servers could run it. Whether they will or not, I don't know. But the key thing here is this should be, for the bits that have been modeled, very close to the official map based on what we know of what the map might end up looking like. So this is based on the Dubstore community map, which we've featured before. This is one that's heavy on speculation and has used all the images from the trailers and some of the other information to accurately plot out where the buildings will be, what the road structure is going to be like, how all of that stuff interacts. And I think the most important thing for me in this video is that the scale of it is quite mind-blowing compared to GTA 5. Even though this map doesn't have any of the details in it, it's essentially just like a flat landmass with buildings scattered around reasonably accurately, but just scattered around in the right places. Like, the buildings aren't really the right height or anything, but they are sort of in the right place. There's also like no traffic on this map. There's no lights at night. There's a lot of stuff that's missing from it. So really all it does you is give the opportunity to see at certain points just how far apart some of these things are going to be based on the scale that we know Rockstar uses and some of the information from the trailer images and all of that kind of stuff. But it's pretty impressive, and I think like I say, I think it really does show you how much bigger potentially the GTA 6 map is going to be, even in just this downtown like Vice Beach area.
What makes you think that we should pay more attention to this map and its purported level of accuracy? Without getting too into the weeds about the science, but I am interested in what makes it so legit, do you think?
I think it's the fact that it's like the community map we've featured before and think that is pretty accurate based on what we've seen. And this is essentially a 3D model of that map. And it also uses a lot of they call them rage engine points, which is what Rockstar used to create their map, to accurately measure the distance between point A and point B.
And where are the areas do you think where maybe it might be, there's less certainty of it being accurate? I would imagine that what we've seen in the trailers can be replicated with engine, but anything we've not seen in the leak or the trailers can't be verified, so to speak. And then I guess we're in the realms of real life geography based speculation.
And all of this is obviously subject to change. And as we mentioned before, all of the shots from the trailer are pretty much from the same area of the map. It's the Florida Keys and the Vice Beach, essentially. There's a couple of other bits here and there that we are guessing and speculating where they might be on the map, but no one actually knows. So anything north, even to the west, that's right, isn't it? Yes. Even to the west is speculation at this stage. So what I think this 3D model shows us is the field of view from Vice City to, say, the Venetian Islands. That's a long way. It feels like it's a long way away, and that's even without any of the detail that Rockstar are going to add to it later on, and all the buildings, however many of them are going to be enterable, all the signs, all the cars, all of that stuff isn't in here, but it does show you a little bit of if you engage your imagination, you can sort of squint loads and go, oh, this could be, if I was in a helicopter in GTA 6, it might give me this sense of stuff. But I think it's a good thing to look at. We might get more information on it soon. We might be able to get in touch with the people who have made it, talk to them about how they put it all together, and that kind of thing. So more on this coming up. But for now, if there's anything you want to ask about it, listeners, put something in the comments. We'll try and get in touch with them and feature them on an upcoming episode. Which brings us on to a question we've had via email around GTA 6 and physical copies of the game. So we're putting this episode into a very retail-heavy one, talking about copies of the game and pricing, etc. But this came from Jonathan. I think we've covered this kind of thing a little bit before, but as we said at the top, there's always some new listeners, and it's quite a big topic. So let's go over it in this episode. I'm going to paraphrase Jonathan's email because it had a lot of things in there that I think are all valid, but I've picked out some of the good ones. So he said, there's a lot of discussion about the death of physical media recently. The most recent data I've seen is that the majority of game purchases are now digital. And as a side to this, there was a report last year. The top 20 UK game sales were 38% physical, Diablo 4 85% digital, Spider-Man 46% digital, so at least 50% digital sales. He goes on to say, I've been wondering about GTA 6 in relation to all of this. In other words, how will we actually buy GTA 6 when it comes out? We've spoken about the potential price tiers for GTA 6. We just did that with an inflatable crocodile edition, absolutely happening, implying a physical release. However, if the game is released on disc, then the manufacturing process, it vastly increases the chance of the game being leaked, as Nintendo have found out time and time again with first-party Switch releases. So here are my thoughts. This is Jonathan's thoughts about potential distribution methods for release day. 1, digital only on release day. It's the most accurate way for Rockstar to secure a release around it. The game could be pre-downloaded and then unlocked at release time, as is common for many new games. Number 2, a physical edition and or collector's edition with the code in the box. Most of Microsoft's first-party games take this approach to accommodate for all the digital stuff and Series XS differences. You get your inflatable crocodile and a steelbook or something, but you still get a download code to download the game. And the other one, number 3, a complete edition disc version a year or so after release. Avoids pre-release spoilers, gets fans to double dip and buy the game twice. Disc would include updates and DLC if applicable. Anyway, what do you think? Any other distribution models you can think of? What do you think is most likely or the best, and keep up the good work, Jonathan? So then, Dan, quite a few things to discuss here. I think we've sort of touched on that at the beginning of the episode. For me, just to dive straight into this, the only real way I see this coming out is a digital only release on day one. I think you will be able to go into a shop and pick up a box copy of the game and take that box home with you that will have a disc in it, maybe it might even just have an online code in it. Will that disc contain the entirety of GTA 6 on it, so you can just put it in and just play it off your system? No, I'm gonna say
Without some form of day one patch or something.
with nothing.
I mean, I don't know the stats. That's quite common for games to do.
Yes,
Something before you play them, isn't it?
most of them are just like a launcher to then download the game.
Yeah.
There's not a lot on those discs these days, and actually, recently released games that require none of this, so actually do have everything on the disc, so you don't need to download anything or patch it. This is according to doesitplay.com. Monster Hunter Wilds lets you do that. You can just put that disc in and play it. Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, Silent Hill 2. Those are probably the most significant that did just have offline. Absolutely everything is offline that you could just play on your own. Games that did need some kind of patch or download: Call of Duty 6, Indiana Jones, Stalker 2. All of those big ones. Like I say, do I think GTA 6 is going to come out? You'll be able to put a disc into your PlayStation 5 or Xbox, and it will just play without connecting to the internet at all, or needing to connect to the internet. I just can't see that happening. Like it's. I would be amazed if that game came out and didn't need a day one patch on release.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that. But I would also say, looking closer at this data from the percentage of physical sales based on game type, this is from 2024, actually that would make me absolutely certain that the game will be available to buy as a disc. Because if you've got, and this is just a very quick summary of, if you look at the types of games, which ones have the highest percent of digital versus physical, there's actually a pattern straight away. So we pulled out Diablo as one that had a very high digital penetration, which is a very, it's a big niche, but it's a niche game for fans of a certain genre who are very online, traditionally PC players, and it's all about connectivity and being online. That had 84% digital sales, right? So they were sort of a much smaller percentage were physical. Now, at the extreme other end of that, a game like Minecraft, now you would expect this to be very heavily digitally led. In the UK, this was 20% digital, which suggests that 80% of the copies sold in the UK are physical. Now, I don't see that surprising as a parent of children, and when you give kids presents, it's nice to physically give them presents. And I think there's a line between, even if you look at, say, Spider-Man 2, which is predominantly a single-player game with a very high mass market appeal, that had 46% digital, so it was more physical than digital. So for a mass market game, or like a kid-friendly game that's predominantly offline, you almost have to offer a physical product.
Yes, but I think the argument is that it's a physical product, but it's still a digital code. So
I agree with that. I think it's a physical disc. It's just that it might need some patch to go. But like, will they you be able to buy a box thing with a disc you put in the thing? Looking at these stats, I would say they almost have to.
Yeah, I think you definitely
because
will
they can't leave 40% of 11 million copy sales on the table.
No, yeah,
you've got to make it available to people.
You'll be able to put a disc in the machine. It's just that disc will then have to connect to the internet.
So I guess that's the question. Like, I think I side with you. Is that the idea of, but could it just run without being internet connected? That would be quite a big leap of faith. I mean, that's a big leap of faith for any game to literally not connect online at all. But it's such a mass market thing. It is. Whether that locks out a tiny percentage of your market by saying you have to be online connected to play GTA 6, it's big enough for someone to get upset about it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I think that's almost all games these days. At some point they like to be able to be on the internet to do something or to get a new update. And like we said, at the beginning, if we're talking about the longevity of these games need to be maintained and patched, and things need to change throughout the process. Like, it's such a big game that bugs and fixes are going to need to be done. Like, there'll be something in there that someone didn't spot in the QA process. If you do drive this car into this building at this specific time of day while this other thing is happening and it's raining, the game glitches out, or something that they've just not been able to test. And that's the kind of thing that they can then go back and patch, which will only just improve the quality of the game. So I think, yes, you will be able to buy it from a shop and take that box home and put it on your shelf, but I think is going to have to connect to the internet and download something, probably a significant chunk of data, like 20 to 50 gigs worth of stuff, which is why, as Jonathan says, having a pre-install, pre-download option is the easiest way to do it, because then as soon as it releases on midnight, the game unlocks. It's not like it releases on midnight, then you have to hit download and sit there waiting while the progress bar very slowly creeps up and downloads like 200 gigs worth of data.
Yeah, I don't, without researching it, I wonder what the history of pre-downloaded games is, if it does create any risk of someone somehow accessing the code early. I don't know enough about that without researching it to dive into it, but I think that might be one element of potential risk there. Otherwise, it's how fast is your broadband speed? All systems go at midnight.
Yeah.
Depending on your time zone. So again, there's embargoes based on that. So
which I do remember happening, back in the day, when you'd like wait till midnight and then go, I'm downloading it, and you'd be chatting to other people going, I'm downloading it, and you're like, well, mine's only going to take 35 minutes because I've got super internet, and yours is going to take 2 hours. So that was fun. That's not going to happen in this time. I think it will all be like pre-install, pre-download, ready to go at midnight or whatever time they choose, and then everyone can play the game at the same time. So hopefully, Jonathan, that answers all of your questions. Thank you for sending that in. If you guys have any other questions, you could email us at gtavio'clock@gmail.com. As Dan mentioned at the top, the newsletter is live. If you want a summary of this show the day after, or you've missed an episode and you want to go and read the things that we've spoken about, you can sign up at www.gamesradar.com/newsletter. There is a button for the GTA 6 o'clock one. Don't bother pressing any of the other buttons. Just tell everyone to press the GTA 6 one. That would be lovely. And then finally, a bit of adjacent news. There is a games showcase happening this week, which we also happen to produce. It's the Future Game Show, which happens this Thursday, March the 20th. It's going to be really good. It's hosted by Jennifer English, who was Shadowheart in Baldur's Gate 3, and Nolan North, Nathan Drake from the Uncharted series, and a load of other voices. It's going to be a really fun show. Will there be GTA 6 at that show? No.
What?
I can confidently tell you that is not going to happen.
We haven't got trailer 2, I'm afraid.
No. But speaking of trailer 2, as we said, Dan, we've predicted a late March, April date for that trailer to come out. It's not going to be in that showcase that's on the 20th. That does only give us 2 to 3 weeks before we hit the tipping point of, if it's not coming in March or April, then I think I'm very much of the mindset that we're looking at 2026.
It does feel that way. So if things go as we predicted to this point, where we're expecting a trailer in, let's say, early mid-April, they've probably got to announce it in the next week or two. Realistically, I mean, when you listen to this, it will be the 19th?
19th.
So 11 days to the end of the month, with 12 days. It's getting pretty tight.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll do a release, an announcement of when the trailer is coming, like only 2 or 3 days before that trailer actually comes. They're not giving us a big runway up to that thing. I think we'll have to wait to find out what that is, but I very much see, like, for example, a Tuesday announcement for a Thursday release, like that kind of thing. But there aren't many of those left, as you say, until the end of April, so we will see. One comment, as we mentioned that people have been speculating whether the trailer's going to drop on April 1st. I do not think that's a possibility. But they said, hey, if they drop it on April 1st, the song is You Won't Get Fooled Again by The Who. That is a good song choice for a trailer.
Yeah.
And it hits the vibe of, like, Miami, well, probably old school Vice City stuff. And it references CSI Miami. Like, it's got a lot of things going for it. It's probably too on the nose for them to actually use it, but good suggestion. Thank you.
I'll just say one quick thing on that, as in, I don't think that will happen. But what if the theme of the game, like we talked about, trust, trust is played up in the next trailer and they released it on April the 1st, then it almost becomes a meta-style exercise in what do you believe and what's true and what isn't. And that will be an entertaining thing verging on performance art. I don't actually think they'll do it because it's too confusing in meta.
I was about to say we're flipping back round to maybe the percentages levels have gone up slightly. Maybe that
only
could
because
happen.
I find that intellectually interesting. I don't think they'll actually do it. It's too weird and confusing.
Well, let us know your predictions and song choices in the comments below. You can get in touch with us on Twitter at GTAVOclock. Subscribe to the newsletter. And if you've got anything else to say, leave a comment below if you're listening on YouTube. Thank you all for watching, and we will be back next week for another episode of GTA 6 O'Clock.